So for most, this is a car that shouldn't need any introduction. This is my Focus SE sedan. The outside has been converted to look like an ST, and it features a few other pieces throughout. But one part it does not yet feature is the drivetrain. It still has the naturally aspirated inline 4, as opposed to the 2-liter from the ST, but that is about to change because of that. This here is Mario's old ST, the one referred to as Ketchup. A few months back now, it was unfortunately written off when a car ran a light and hit it. So the car sadly was beyond repair. Couldn't be fixed, so we bought it back from insurance. And as you can see, since then we've spent a fair bit of time stripping it down, pulling out the drivetrain along with everything else to swap into my car and sell off respectively. Okay, so I am now a few hours into the teardown. I am spending my time today just taking off the easy parts, the one-person jobs, getting them out of the way, so that tomorrow when Mario and Derek come over we can get into the real heart of this. But already the front of the car is looking a lot more stripped. A lot of the stuff is out of the way. I have to hold the hood up now because I took off the hood struts either side since the fenders are gone now. Just put this down. I also made sure to tie a piece of string onto the hood release just so it's easier to grab in case the cable itself gets lost under the hood. Don't want to have that closed without an easy way to release it. The plan is for the car to be completely torn down, hopefully by the end of tomorrow. We'll see if we get that far, but either way we want the engine, the new engine, in and the car back on the ground by Monday evening if we can. That gives us a 3-day weekend to work like mad and get the old engine pulled and the new one dropped in place. Should be doable, provided we don't run into any unforeseen setbacks or break anything or lose anything. Check in again soon once I get some more progress done, but for now it's time for a little bit of food and then I'll carry on probably with the interior next. Gotta get the console out of the way, prepare the front doors to be pulled off, and also get a lot of the trim out of the way so that we can remove the dashboard tomorrow too. So this is the start of day 3 of the conversion. Mario and Derek and I worked fairly late last night and got a lot of work done. As you can see, a lot more pieces are missing from the car. The doors are probably the most obvious. Those have to come off in order to pull the dashboard out later on. But in terms of the engine I should say, all we have to do is free the axles from the hubs and then just pull out the last bolts from the motor mounts and it will be ready to come out. With it out of the way, we can finally start undoing the harness and some of the extra components in the bay and move on to the dashboard pull. This has to come out in order to change some components and wiring in behind it, unfortunately. It's not the worst job in the world, but it's not exactly easy or fast either. We have to pull the seats out still in order to get enough room to get the dashboard out. At least I imagine we will have to, probably should, just to keep them safe. Don't want to run the risk of cutting them or anything. And then we get to remove the shifter assembly since we're going from a 5-speed to a 6-speed. Steering column has to come out too since it's attached to the dashboard. And other than that, there's not too much left to take off before we start putting pieces back on. But yeah, this is mustard. Well, yesterday, I was going to say a couple nights ago, but yesterday I drove it around for the final time with its engine. Or I should say I started it up and just kind of rolled it around a bit. Had to back it in the garage anyway. So yesterday was its final drive with this engine. And hopefully probably by tomorrow we should have the new ST engine in. We have to spend some time once it's out just tidying up the bay, giving it a clean, swapping out the components like the brake booster, ABS module, and we will also continue filling up the garage with parts of my car and the house. I still have a number of pieces of Ketchup here, so between its spare parts and now my spare parts, the house is getting rather full. I'll look forward to having this done just so I can clean up too and get a lot of this mess out of here. But yeah, there it is. And yes, we are getting plenty of weird looks and questions from the neighbors at this point. Few have walked by and they'll see the door open, see this mess sitting in here, and then they just have to ask what the heck is going on. It's alive! We did it! And it's loud as hell because it's open downpipe. Oh my god! Yes! Oh my god, all the time and money, it works. Canada's first ST Sedan. Yes! Oh my god. Alright, welcome back to the channel everyone. Today we have Mustard in front of us for the video because there's an update on the site that I want to focus on today regarding this. So if you're not familiar with this car, this is a fully ST converted sedan. This was numbered 6 in the world, first in Canada, completed a handful of years back. And if you look back on the channel, you'll see videos covering the ST swap. You'll also see some posts on our own blog covering some of the details of it, but the main articles which looked at the whole process of converting this were always hosted over on 1552's Project ST website. We had this as well as Sriracha, Mario's, now Derek's Fiesta ST as a couple of the official project cars of 1552, so the bulk of this was on their site. That site is no longer hosted, you may have noticed, it's long gone, so what we have done is now, coincidentally with it also now being 5 years since the swap, it felt like an appropriate time, we have relisted all of the original articles on our own blog. All will be linked below, so they're now all in one place. They're all still tied to the video links and bonus article links and everything else, so you can click on those and check out the full swap. So I wanted to do a little video not only providing the update that our website's been updated with those, but also just to cover a few of the changes that this car has seen in those 5 years. So everything is always documented on the site in detail in the blog posts, but some of the newer mods on this have never been the features of videos themselves. So while the camera's rolling today, I figured I'd take just a couple of minutes to quickly walk around it and highlight those as well in case anyone's curious to see them in a bit more detail. So the outside is largely the same since the swap was completed. This is going back to 2016, of course. The tarmacs, which the car has worn off and on over the years, were eventually restored and put back on. They're now in a fresh white powder coat, which was actually selected to match the paint of my Grand Prix. So this is not the original white shade anymore. This is slightly different to match my other car. Those are back on. The other big difference on the outside is the addition of the front flares. These are SS Tuning version 2 front flares. You may have seen the video covering the full front and rear version 1 flares on Dijon. I obviously only did the fronts on this because A, being front wheel drive, it doesn't really need wider track width out here, and also given that I would have to cut for the flares, I didn't want to cut the quarter panels, so want to keep all this intact. The fronts, it doesn't matter, they're just bolt-on fenders, so I got a second set of fenders, cut them up and put them on. And speaking of that, while the driver's side fender was a junkyard piece, the passenger fender here is actually off of Ketchup. And if you take a peek in the door jamb, oh, I'll have to get some B-roll overlaid, you can actually see a little Easter egg we hid with the original paint of Ketchup showing through, the red, the race red. So there's the front flares. Front end's basically the same. I did add the Mountoon lower sport spoiler between the cup spoilers either side. And then under hood, it's all running well. This is the heart out of Ketchup. It's the 2013 ST engine and the 6-speed manual. As it sits, it's a little under 92,000 kilometers on the engine. The car naturally doesn't see a huge number of miles every year, given it's just a summer toy now. So since the swap was completed, it's seen about 15,000 kilometers total. It hasn't missed a beat. It's run perfectly since then. And it is stage 3. It's full bolt-ons. So mixture of cob parts and mounting parts and so forth. As far as updates, since the swap, there's not been a ton done under here. Some little details like the painted hood release. There's the Mishimoto coolant reservoir and an RS filler neck. I can put all the links for these down below, incidentally. But otherwise, it's fairly standard full bolt-on engine. That's all it really needs, just being a street toy. This isn't tracked. It's not for track use. It's for street use and show use. So plenty of fun. And then brakes are still as they were at the time of the swap, with stock brakes out back and the brake kit from VMAX up front. So nothing new there to report on. Leaving the last couple of updates as being inside, with just careful to open that so I don't hit the Sylvia. The inclusion of the OEM carbon fiber door spears, which I re-cleared in satin carbon just to do, or I should say I re-cleared in satin clear coat, just to do something a little bit different. So I sanded them down and re-cleared them. Of course, there's the, actually no, I should actually rewind. These are also new from the time of the swap. These are factory Arctic White door panel inserts. These were quite tricky to track down to complete a set, but with big help from Paul, I was finally able to, so it has those. And then the biggest interior change, arguably, since the swap, again, being careful not to hit the other car, is the rear seat delete. So back seats are gone, and in their place are a couple of custom closeout panels upholstered to save weight and stick with the whole club sport theme we've kind of worked towards with this car. So there's that as well. And as I'm quickly thinking back, trying to remember anything else, I believe that is everything since the swap back in 2016. The car more or less hit a point in about 2019 where I was happy to call it complete for now. Left it as it was to move on to other projects and focus my time and effort elsewhere. So since then, this thing's basically stayed untouched, just being driven and enjoyed, not really being modified anymore. Yes, I will come back to it. We will, I'm sure at some point, have this out again for maybe a bit more power. I do also have a Quaife LSD to throw in it at some point whenever we decide to tear it down. Might still do big turbo someday, I don't know, but again, this is more than enough power for how the car is used. The body is basically exactly where I want it. I do have some sequential signals to throw in here at some point when I get a chance. I don't see the need to change anything else regarding body kit, lighting, so forth outside of that, so probably stay as you see it. And the inside, I do have some new painted trim for the center console to replace all of the original silver pieces that you see. Waiting to take care of that in the future when I feel like pulling the dashboard apart. And there's also, in my storage unit, I do have a spare headliner waiting to be reupholstered in black, because to help with the whole ST conversion, this should be black to be accurate, but obviously it's still the original kind of off-white color, so that might be addressed in the future. But this is just me stockpiling parts for future ideas, future projects, if and when I decide to do them. As the car sits now, I've had it a little over 10 years, and really pretty much couldn't be happier with how it stands as you see it. I think it's come together well. It's been a ton of fun, and for the risk of overdoing it, I don't want to go too crazy with it now and risk taking it too far. So yeah, stage 3 ST swapped flared sedan. I'm quite happy with how it sits. And so in closing, to take this video back to where it started, as far as the ST swap is concerned, you can now see all of those posts again on our own site. Figured it was time to get them back on there for archiving and having everything in one place. So I know a lot of people still have questions about the whole process of swapping these sedans over. You can now get a little more information from our site directly. Again, I'll have the links and all the other stuff below. You can go back and watch the older videos watching this come together, seeing it without its front end and motor and all that other stuff. And this is now how it sits 5 years later. Still running strong, still turning heads at shows and surprising people on the street, and still just as fun as it ever has been. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully this answered a few questions if you were new here and didn't know much about the car. Everything, as I've said a few times now, will be linked below. If you want to know more, you can go and check that out. And until next time, have a good one.